Welcome to the Access Sport podcast, your best chance to learn more about our students, our teams and our programmes.
Hello everyone, welcome again to the Access Sport podcast. Delighted to be joined today by Charlie Hiscox from USports. Charlie, how are you doing?
Yeah, very good. Thank you for having me.
And of course, my esteemed colleague.
That's a very, very broad term.
Jordan, it's for you to introduce yourself. You know the drill.
Yeah, so obviously people by now know, obviously I'm working with Access Sport in the career side of things. The podcast, this is episode 3. Obviously we've had a wide range of guests, and I think today with Charlie will be another one interesting for us, but most importantly interesting for the students who are aspiring to be coaches or work in the broader coaching field. So yeah, looking forward to this.
Absolutely. So thanks for joining us, Charlie. So the way we'll structure the episode, for those who haven't watched on before, Jordan will come with some questions, generally standardized questions, talking about Charlie's journey, how he's got to where he is now, and maybe any bits along the way that he thinks were significant. And I'll try and jump in with some questions that I'm interested in hearing the answers to. So without further ado, Jordan, over to you.
All right, so Charlie, obviously now, with USports, that's where you are now. Just talk us through your journey from starting out coaching as a young person.
Yeah, perfect. So, I come sort of like 14, 15, I really started to find a bit of a passion for coaching. I worked with a local coaching company and just did some work experience with them. So if any of your listeners are interested, like that's something you could do, like get work experience. And that gave me the opportunity just to be in and around primary school settings, just the standard after school clubs, the lunch clubs. And once I turned 16, I got offered the opportunity to be like a paid assistant. So at this point, I was still very nervous of even leading a group of 10 children on my own or anything like that. So just assisting, really getting to know how to deliver coaching sessions. And that then led into a paid role as a sort of after school club coach, very simple sessions. And as the sort of next 5 or 6 years went on, I worked for a number of different coaching companies, had some really good bosses, had some awful bosses as well, and learned a lot about who I was as a coach and the philosophy that I developed and what I wanted to achieve for young people in my sessions. And I got offered a full-time role in a coaching position, which at the time, and probably still is, actually quite a difficult thing to get into, especially because it was football focused at the time. And I really wanted to drive up the football ladder. I got my UEFA B, and at the time I was doing all the evening sessions with high quality sort of youngsters, and during the day I was helping this company expand their current portfolio so they can send out more coaches into schools and nurseries and things like that. So from that, it was 18 months that I worked there. I got given a very low salary, and I was getting a percentage of the profits I brought into this business. And as it built up, I was on 10k basic, and as I went up, built up to about 22k, including my bonuses. And I got pulled in one day just to say, look, you're going to have to, we have to change your contract, and we're not going to let you earn a percentage anymore. And it's just down to you're just on a basic salary. And I'd worked so hard, like 12-hour days every day to build this up, to work with more schools. And it resulted in me being sat down that you have to sign the contract or you leave. And I refused to sign the contract, and ended up with the guy with his finger in my face telling me to F off in his office in front of all the other staff. As he said it, a little bit of spit sort of came across and hit me on the cheek as he said, as he swore at me. And then I was escorted off site past all my old employees, only 21 at the time. And escorted off site, was embarrassed in front of everybody. And at that point I decided, right, I'm never going to work for anyone again. Now that shouldn't put anyone off of employment, because I had some fantastic bosses, but this one in particular really hit me hard. And so that then led into going to USports.
Okay, well, we will come into USports, obviously. I just want to try and touch on a few things that you've gone through there. So starting with the volunteering work now, I've consciously tried to make this a bit of a running theme of our podcasts is that, you know, the current generation, and this is not to be disrespectful or in any way, shape or form, it seems to be lost on people, the value of volunteer work. Talk to me the importance of that aspect of your journey and maybe how important it was or what you took from that experience first and foremost.
Yeah, I think just for me as a young coach, inexperienced coach, even like you might have the confidence to feel like you know what you're doing, but until you get alongside the shoulder of someone who's been doing it for 10, 15, 20 years, like you just don't understand the level that you're trying to deliver to. And you know, it depends what sport you want to get into, but I'm sure a whole number of high level academies, if you wanted to do some work experience, you could get in there and do it. But when the right job comes up, you've already established yourself, you've already shown to yourself, you've built a trust with that company or wherever, and that for me was massive. And we still have it now in USports now, where people will do work experience for us, and as soon as you get to know them and you see them with the kids, and the next time an opportunity comes up, you'll go to is that person because you've already seen them, they're already well known in the business and people like them. So anyone who does work experience, like fair play to them, because yeah, you're not getting paid, but the long term value is it's so good because you're going to set yourself up.
Sorry to cut you off, Charlie, but I think as what's important for especially our learners to hear is that sort of opinion from an employer, because I think sometimes people who are looking at work experience, they maybe feel like, you know, what's the point? But from an employer side, how much do you value if someone does come to you with, you know, a good bank of work experience or volunteer work? How far does that go for someone like you who's looking to, you know, obviously employ someone?
Yeah, I think people need to appreciate, like, if they're not doing work experience, and they're just sending their CV in on Indeed or wherever. No, every job that you post, you're getting tens, sometimes like hundreds of applications, and even if your CV is very strong, you're not necessarily standing out. Whereas that one person who's already shown that it's not all about the money for them, they want to learn, they want to be around the right environment. It just, the value you give yourself is incredible, and I think any employer would tell you that is one of the most important things. Like if you get to know them, and even just you're asking them about the session today, I'll just let you know we're going to be at this place, whatever, and the way that you're building up your communication with that person, and trust is everything. It's the same in you're selling yourself. When you're looking to get a job, you are selling yourself, whether you realize it or not. You're in sales, and like one of the biggest things in sales, you're selling yourself, is trust and credibility, and that yes, the CV gives you that, but actually working in an organization gives you so much more credibility from the off.
I think another thing, sorry Gary, go on.
Oh, go on, sorry. Oh, go on.
It was just another thing, just off topic, what I wanted to pick up on is a skill that I sort of think is very, very important in the modern world, especially for young people. And it's going back on your negative experience with, you know, the boss that you had, and it's resilience. Like, I know that must have been really difficult for you at a young age, but how has that shaped you now, where you are in your life and in your business? That sort of building up that side of resilience.
Yeah, I think at the time, for my career, it just felt like the worst thing that had ever happened to me, and I just didn't know a way out of it. But through going through that experience, like, yeah, it wasn't a nice experience, but it does teach you that bad things are going to happen, and you'll come out the other end of it stronger. You learn from it, and if bad things happen, it's just like just learning from it. For me, like that experience was just. I take that into business now. I lose a big contract, or a really good coach leaves, or whatever. I would say in a day-to-day business, running a business, you're probably every 10 things that happen in the business, 9 things are not ideal, and 1 good thing will happen. And it's like just constantly being knocked down, or things not going the way you wanted it to, and then just being able to battle through that, and then for that 1 good thing to keep happening. And like resilience is one of the most important things.
The reason I ask is sort of with young people, especially as they're stepping into the professional world, it's so easy to get your confidence knocked. But I think when you're younger, you almost feel like it's only you, right? It's like nobody else's confidence is getting knocked. It's just me. It's, you know, and it's quite an easy way to sort of look for the back door, for want of a better phrase, for a career that you might have wanted to pursue. So I just think, you know, hearing stories like that of resilience, you know, I think a phrase you said then, you have to expect bad things to happen, but it's all about sort of coming out on the other side of them and coming out as a better person, a better professional, a better coach. And I think that's so important.
And going through it with almost like having that mindset of everything that happens to me is my responsibility, even if sometimes it isn't your responsibility. It's just like if I look back at that time when I was going through that with my boss, like there were signs before that I could have changed my situation anyway and not been put through that experience. So I think a lot of the time I see it just managing people. People think that bad things happen to them and they have no control over it, but a lot of the time you do have responsibility, and you can apply that to your life.
No, I like that, and there's also a saying, control the controllables. Like sometimes things are going to happen that are completely beyond your control. You've just got to roll with that one and try and control what you can, and make a difference yourself.
Yeah.
But just going back briefly to you're talking about your appetite as a young coach to get into football, and that was really what originally driven you. And look, that's very commonplace. It's very similar to me. But what you did touch upon, and now it's obviously certainly prevalent with your current business, is that in the day you were obviously working in schools, doing multi-sports at times, but in the evening you were doing the football. Talk about from a coaching point of view, the importance of that balance and seeing both sides of that and getting experience of both sides of coaching, so to speak.
Yeah, perfect. So I think for me as a coach personally, when I was going through and not sort of earning my rank, like by going and doing your multi-sports after school clubs with maybe some kids who don't necessarily want to be there, or delivering a PE lesson, a gymnastics PE lesson, but you want to be a football coach, or it's the skills that you learn from it. Like if you can't manage 30 year ones in a PE environment, but you're looking to work at an elite academy, or under 21s, under 23s, or something like that, and you're going to be working with big groups, you learn so much of the basic skills in that fundamental age group, which isn't all glamorous and elite, but you learn so much from it. And when you go, and you'll use those skills. So any coach who comes into me who's like, I want to go football long term, or I want to be an elite coach. Yes, but you need to learn the fundamentals of coaching. You need to learn behavior management, group skills, like the actual, just your planning, your delivery, your evaluation of your sessions. Like there's so many common themes. It's just when you get to elite, you're delivering it a different style, but there's so many fundamental things that you need to learn. And I think schools are great for that, because you just get thrown with all the unexpected things that you can think of.
No, I completely agree. I actually, I was talking to, I think it's seen him make a comment actually, Mick Beale, who's now the manager at QPR. He worked at the academy with me at Liverpool. And I remember when he was 23's manager, I can actually remember this at the time. He was inquiring with the foundation at the time, the community program, about whether he could go out in the community and just do some work during the day, just because he felt like he'd lost a few of those skills along the way, just connecting with people and connecting with different people and connecting with children. And he just wanted to kind of sharpen his communication skills. And he felt that going back to when he was younger, he was better when he used to have to deal with those challenges on a daily basis. I thought it was really interesting and really apt.
And for him, it's like, can he put that nursery hat on and then take that nursery hat off and be the under 23 manager? And like, it sounds silly as a coach, but it's the reality of the industry. A lot of times you want to be full time as well. You've got to be able to apply your skills in different ways.
That's it. And you're doing it from going for a press conference back into the changing room, aren't you? So it's having that ability to just consistently, as you say, take that hat off or change your persona. It's a massive skill, isn't it, Jordan? Sorry.
No, it's okay, mate. What's interesting for me is like the multiple layers to being a good coach. So I think sometimes, and like a sort of narrow-minded view would be, putting on great sessions, making everything look really good and professional. But what are the skills that you need as a person in order to become a successful and a good coach?
Yeah. So when I'm looking for people to work with me, I think the openness to feedback is one of the most important things, because there's so many different opportunities you're going to be given feedback. And as a coach, to be able to move up through a business or an organization, you need to be able to apply the feedback that you're being given by the manager and bring it into your session. So that's one of them. I also think you have to be energetic and fun, and motivational. I think that sort of that positive energy that comes off of you and being able to focus on the positive energy rather than the negative energy is really important. And also just being organised. Yeah, even it doesn't matter what level you're working at as a coach. You got to be able to turn up on time. You've got to be able to bring the right equipment with you, and you've got to be in the right location at the right time. And it's all of that sort of fundamentals of being a good person, and everyone can be on time. You don't need to be well trained or anything like that. Like, you just need to be able to just do it. So, and that stands out for any employer or manager, I'm sure.
No, listen, I think you're spot on. You know what's great to hear about that, and all of our tutors and coaches will probably be watching this nodding, because it's stuff like that you can really sharpen and work on in college. We're not saying that everyone all the way through college is going to be on time or whatever, but it is a habit that you can develop and you can get better at. And it's things like, being enthusiastic when you're not maybe feeling yourself that day, you're feeling a little bit down, or you haven't had a great day, but coming in and being energetic when you're in the session, and being energetic in the classroom, and switching yourself on at the right time. They are all things that you can harness, aren't they, during your college time, so that you are more enjoyable when you leave.
Yeah, definitely. And and especially when you first, like 16 to 19-year-olds, first step into employment, like, you're going to learn pretty quickly the expectations of when you're being employed, and know what you're not expected to be late. Like, it's just fundamental things which are just so simple, and you just need to be able to do well and get it right.
I think it's important sort of life skills as well, because some people, at 16 they may want to be a coach, or they may want to do something, but as their life progresses into the 20s and they sort of divert elsewhere, or they do something else, it's life skills that you build during these years that are going to stand you in good stead. So I just think it's very interesting, especially within sport, is sometimes you get focused on putting on a good session or putting in a good performance or whatever it may be. Whereas sometimes, if you can take a step back and try to understand that you're building yourself as a person going forward, as a decent functioning member of society, wherever that leads you in your career. And I just think being able to, it's quite difficult between 16 and 19, because there's a lot going on in your life. I completely understand that. But I think the more people can be aware that, if you are 5 minutes early to a session, or, maybe you're not playing well, but you work a little bit harder. These are all skills that will stand you in good stead when you're in your 20s and your 30s. And I think, it's, as I said before, from hearing that from an employer is something that I think will give the learners confidence.
So, go on, Gary.
Yeah, I was just going to say then, if we can move on, because obviously I'll be fair, and I don't mind saying to the listeners and viewers, you popped up on my LinkedIn, and I followed you, and I kind of looked at some of the stuff you're doing, and for a young man, you're a very good ambassador for coaching, I mind saying, and also from a business point of view as well. Talk to us then about coming back from that experience where you were shipped off site, and you were kind of left on your backside with, I guess, nothing at the time. Talk to us how you picked yourself up, used that positive mentality to build USports.
Yeah, sure. So I think there was two main factors in my life at the time. So one was coaching, and absolutely loved coaching at whatever level it was, whether it was working with the high level youngsters in the evenings, or nursery sessions or whatever. And then my passion for business as well, because as a teenager, I would be the one like doing all the paper rounds that I could. I would be looking over people's fences to see if I could pick apples from their apple tree, and then charge them like a $5 for their carrier bags. I would like just anything. I would buy and sell video games at school, and buy them from my mates and sell them on Amazon. And once working for people in the coaching industry didn't work out, it just seemed like the natural route to sort of put both of them together and start my own business. So when I did that, I was told by one of the schools that I knew previously that they would support me, and if I did that, and they would bring some work over to me. So I started my business with one after school club a week, and it was just me with a bag of footballs in the back of the car. And gradually that built, and more schools wanted us. And it got to a point where more like 2 schools wanted USports at the same time. So at that time, I had to employ a self-employed coach, and it just built up really. I had a few self-employed coaches. One of them was doing about 25 hours a week, and I was like, oh, well, I could put you on a contract. So then I started introducing contracts, and sort of 5 years on from when I was escorted out of that office, I've now got like a team of just over 60 people. We work with around 80 schools, nurseries. So just that growth from myself there to now what we've got now. We've got managers overseeing the schools and the holiday camps, and so much great stuff that's going on in the business. And half of it I don't even know what's going on because it's got bigger than. And I miss that value, that me having full control over every session and exactly all the kids and all the parents. But to have a bigger impact on my community, I had to be able to grow the business.
Those people who are, especially learners who might want to, one day own their own business, I think sort of, on a general scale, there's not much for them in terms of guidance. And, it's not something that's sort of not encouraged, but it's sort of the less well-traveled road, isn't it, for people to, go and just start their own business in whatever industry it may be. What advice would you give to someone who's maybe sitting watching this in the classroom who thinks, I want to own my own business?
Yeah, I think it's got to come from the right place. It can't just be a financial motivation, because you have to realize that like all weekend, like at night, early days, I was waking up at night constantly thinking about the business. And I still sometimes do now, and it just completely consumes your whole life. So you do need to appreciate what you're about to start. I was in quite a fortunate position because I'd had like 5 or 6 years of building up my coaching experience. I wouldn't just have left school and just started a coaching business. I feel like to deliver at the right standard, you need to sort of gain your stripes. You need to work with really good people. So that would be a big turning point. But trying to find a mentor, somebody who's done it already. But once you make a decision, just go with it and put everything into it. Like USports would not be where it is now without the countless hours of all the hard work, whether it was financial stuff, marketing stuff, HR, sales, like all of it. You are not just a coach. You've got responsibility for people's children, and you're safeguarding people like on a daily basis. And you need to make sure that everyone's safe. It's like there's a huge amount that goes into it. So I would say learn the craft first and become really confident, and know that you are like a very strong coach before you go and set it up yourself. There's different routes as well, because some people might be thinking about buying a business. Some people might be thinking about maybe buying a franchise as well. So you could pay like 20 grand up front and be given the logo and everything else, but it's a big risk on your side. So we've recently created something called USports Partners that we could maybe talk about later on. But for people in that sort of position where they don't want to risk a whole business, but still have control over their own finances and their time as well. So
that's something I want to come to next, to be fair. I think it's very admirable what you've done, and it's a very interesting model, and certainly very educational from a business model point of view for our students and our staff as well. Talk to us about USports Partners, because that was something that really caught my eye. And again, I think it's a really, really interesting and obviously successful model, and could continue to grow.
Yeah, perfect. So at the moment we're based in Reading in the southeast, and any school or holiday camp that we run within a 45-minute drive from our office, we can deliver to a really high standard. But once schools and nurseries are looking and they're like an hour away or an hour and a quarter away, my coaches don't want to go there. If I find someone local to go, no one's going to be overseeing it. So I wanted to expand the business and impact more children. And like I say, one route was the franchise route, but it's sort of been done to death in the industry. And some people have done really well out of it, but for me, it just didn't sit right with charging somebody 20 grand to use USports as a logo. And then I felt like it's almost trying to bring the right people into you, not just trying to sell franchises. So USports Partners, basically people get 15k basic, and they get 15% of the turnover that they bring into their area. So somebody who's maybe been an area manager for another coaching company, but wants to maybe take that next step and open up their financial potential, they could become a partner with us outside of our current 45-minute drive sort of radius. And they would start with no schools, but on a 15k basic, and build up their areas as much as they can. And yeah, in my first year, I turned over 100k, and like this year, we'll turn over 700k. So somebody in like West London was doing that in 5 years' time. They'll be earning over 100k, which is almost unheard of in the sports coaching industry. Gives people really, and you know, we're doing well out of it. They're doing well out of it, and it's sort of, the more successful they are, the more successful we are. So it was that sort of idea of expanding the business, but by having really good people managing those areas.
It's really interesting that, because as you say, like franchising or, you know, other ways of doing it in terms of, you know, might have been done repeatedly and over again, but then you've decided to sort of think outside the box, so to speak. I think that's, again, to obviously draw it back to the learners, that's another really good skill that, you know, learners need to develop, that sort of bravery to think differently. And, you know, if you see something differently, then, you know, don't be afraid to pursue it. And as you rightly say there, you know, you've incentivized what you're doing in terms of your business just through maybe thinking a little bit differently to people who are also in the industry with you. But another thing for me is, outside of the partners, where do you see your own business going in the next sort of 5 to 10 years?
I think the core area will just continue to grow and develop. It seems like the more people we work with, the quicker it grows. And because I think, you know, head teachers talk, you get more opportunities. And so I think the core area will grow. But I think my only other plan at the moment with USports is to make sure that the local partners in the next year are really successful, and to prove to anybody in the UK that, look, USports is a brand that you could bolt on to yourself and become very successful. So I think that there's no reason why this can't, if it works locally, why it can't go nationally. So that's just a big thing for me. And then with that, potentially, is that every partner takes on 1 or 2 apprentices, or even more, and we can start being the training provider for these apprentices. So we can start earning money from the apprentices by coming through our training program as well. So there's that to it, but at the moment it's just partners and building up areas that we can deliver work in.
Yeah, half an hour has gone in an absolute flash here. We could do another hour. It's really interesting for you to hear you talk sort of about, for me especially, like, you know, I appreciate your coaching and this, but the stuff around it I think is very interesting. I think they're the big learning points, especially for our learners, in terms of the skills that you need to build up outside of the physically, you know, the physical of coaching and stuff. You have to be a well-rounded individual, and you have to be, you know, you have to have appetite to continue to develop them skills. And I think, you know, if I've taken anything away from this half an hour chat, which you say has been great, it is that, you know, that continuously trying to improve yourself and the things around you. And I think it's been a brilliant chat, to be honest.
Yeah, thank you so much.
No, just as a kind of a leaving message for the viewers, whether you're a parent, whether you're a student, a tutor, please check Charlie out on LinkedIn. As I say, I find him really interesting to follow. He's very honest on there. He shares the highs and lows of his business on a daily basis, which is refreshing but great to see. But more importantly, you know, if you're one of those tutors in our areas, in different areas, you'd like to get Charlie on to speak to your current students, your previous students, or you'd like to reach out to him, again, I'm sure he'd be happy to do that. Help to spread the USports business, which I think is a cracking business, and I think it will continue to grow, mate. I think you've got a really good model. And once again, thanks for your time, Charlie.
Thank you so much. Really enjoyed it, and so pleased with all the different topics we spoke about today. Hopefully you can see how passionate I am about it. I love business, I love coaching, being able to talk about it and, you know, pass some of that knowledge on to aspiring coaches is fantastic. So thank you for the opportunity.
Likewise. Take care, Charlie. Thanks.